Alright, welcome to episode 2 of Rusty Collins Recap Comic Book and Review. We're just going to jump straight into it this week and get going through the comics, because as you saw from the pull list, there's a bunch of them again. So, we're going to start this week with Cable number 153. This is written by Ed Brisson and John Mallon. So, don't traditionally pick up the Cable comic. It's been kind of just off and on blah. The reason I have been picking up this last run, though, is because the villain is Selene, and Selene is my wife's favorite character, so anything that has Selene in it, I pick up for my wife. I try to make this very inclusive. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. With my family, it's one of the ways that we all kind of bond and hang out and know each other a little bit, not a lot. I mean, it's mostly just me reading comics and going, here, do this with me! But it works. So, in this issue, you see Gideon come back to life. Gideon is one of the externals, and that's how Selene and everybody else is kind of linked into this, except for Cable and his team. Cable's just like, there's an anomaly in time. I'm going to fix it because I'm like a time cop. So, you see Gideon come back. You see Gideon trash Cable's team. You see Gideon bail out. You see Gideon go fight the Black Queen, Selene. Trash her and her people. And then at the very end of the issue, you see Selene come back to Cable and be like, alright, so let's not fight. And let's work together, but only if you promise to kill that guy. Like, actually kill Gideon. And that was very close to the entire issue. Not a lot happened. Some good action. Art's great. But not a lot of, like, depth as far as me sitting here ranting for 5 minutes about this issue. So with that in mind, we'll move on to the next. Alright. The Unbelievable Gwenpool number 24. This is by Christopher Hastings and Girihiru? Girihiru? I'm assuming it's Asian, and I'm not good with that. Girihiru? Yeah. So anyways, Unbelievable Gwenpool. As I stated in the pull list part of this, I buy this comic because my soon-to-be 15-year-old daughter is the only comic she will read. Issue 1, she told me, she was like, hey, you're reading comic books, can you buy me this? I really like it. And it just kind of kept going and going and going, and this has become her like trademark character and the thing that she's embraced and taken on. Anybody with teenagers, period, let alone step teenagers, it's hard as heck to find any way to talk to them about anything. So I read Gwenpool, so I have one thing at least guaranteed to talk to my daughter about. Gwenpool's silly. Gwenpool frustrates me. But I read Gwenpool for my daughter. So in this issue, Gwenpool realizes she's going to get canceled. And it's true, this comic's only got a couple more left. So she's going to get canceled, and Gwenpool decides, well, she's going to be she's going to go out with a bang and be a bad guy. So her and the Leaper, who's Bartog, the Leaper, who's been in this comic with her, decide that they're going to go rob a bad guy's bar, basically. Like a casino, but it's in a ship. And they go and they do their thing, and they start robbing the place, and they steal stuff, and they get away, and they make it. And Gwen's having like emotional breakdowns the whole time because she knows that once her comic's canceled, all the backup side characters are just no longer going to exist because nobody wrote them before, so nobody will write them after, and like just all this weird nonsense. And it's Gwenpool. It's a very silly, slapsticky, goofy comic, and there's a reason that my teenage daughter very, very much so likes this comics. It is just flat silly. So silly. Because Gwen knows that she's a comic book character. That's her power. Like, it's just obscene. So, moving onward and forward. Alright, so this next comic I am super duper excited about. When I heard the pitch for the idea, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was like, this could either be the silliest damn thing I've ever seen, or one of the coolest comics I've read from Marvel in a really like in recent time. And that is issue number 220, The Punisher. They've been doing Punisher got War Machine's armor. So this is a couple issues into the storyline, so it's been kind of progressing and escalating. What's going on? Nick Fury came to Frank Castle. Okay, we'll go back. Nick Fury came to Frank Castle and was like, look, man, S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart. There is no more S.H.I.E.L.D. currently at Marvel right now. And Nick Fury's like, I got a proposition for you. I can give you a really cool piece of tech to help you in your war on street criminals. And instead of just taking out whoever, like the little, small-time fish that come through the docks, you can go straight to the source and take them out. So what do you say? And Frank kind of knows he's being hustled, and he's like, this better be worth it, Fury. And he gets a hold of the War Machine armor, and Frank's like, okay, this is cool. So he goes to this small little nation that's being basically run by warlords and fear and crime. And Frank just starts knocking people around. Anytime he sees injustice in the streets, he just starts taking people out. He's like, who's your boss? This is my boss. Where's he at? I don't know. Dead. Where's your boss? I don't know. Dead. Where's your boss? I don't know. Dead. And he starts doing this to all these soldiers. Get to this issue. Starts off where they're taking a young man away because he's gay. And his mom is protesting and crying, and the soldiers just have no heart and remorse. And one of the soldiers pulls a gun and puts it to the old lady's head. And he's like, if you don't go back in your house, we will shoot you dead in the street. And as he threatens her, Frank, the Punisher, in this armor, just lands on the guy and crushes his body into the cement. And just shoots off, just kills the other guys, like, pfft. And this old lady's very thankful, and she's like, you're the best, and she tries to feed him, and she feeds him some local dish, and he's like, this is terrible, and the young man's like, yeah, it's not for everybody. And Frank's like, where were they going to take you? And the young man's like, well, I'll show you, and he shows him, literally takes him to, like, a concentration camp. And Frank gets all pissed off at this, and the Punisher goes in, and just lays waste to this entire concentration camp and frees everybody, and they're like, yay, you're the greatest again, and he's like, I'm not your hero, I'm just doing what's right. And he proceeds to just go across the entire country trying to find the man in charge. And he keeps asking questions like, where's the guy in charge? And nobody knows. And where's the guy in charge? And nobody knows. He's starting to get a little suspicious. And then out of nowhere, a guy in power armor similar to his, not Tony Stark grade, but similar to his, shows up and starts fighting him. And he's like, I'm the guy in charge, basically. What the hell are you doing here? And, like, completely just wipes the floor with the Punisher, because obviously this guy knows how to use his suit and his armor, where the Punisher's had his couple days, like 2 weeks. He's not had time to learn how to use the equipment, and the guy even calls him on it. He's like, what are you doing, Frank? You're slipping. You're using tools that you're not trained in, and that's how soldiers get killed. I've been trained in how to use my tool, and he's just like beating the crap out of him. Hits him with an EMP, wipes out his weapons. It's pretty much just Frank now in armor. And the guy's mouthing off to him, and he's being arrogant. And the Punisher's like, I don't need all this fancy high-tech stuff to kill you. Jumps up, grabs the guy by the face, lands on the ground, and just pushes his hands through his takes his thumbs and smashes them through the guy's eyes and kills him. And you're like, okay, that was amazing. 4 more guys in power armor show up. And they're like, oh, did Nick Fury send you to clean this up? And he's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, come on, you didn't know we were ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. agents running this from behind the scenes. And all of a sudden, it all falls into place. The Nick Fury knew darn well these guys went rogue after S.H.I.E.L.D. collapsed. And we're like, we're going to go be warlords in this little tiny country and live like kings and make everybody think it's some random dictator when it's really S.H.I.E.L.D. ex-SHIELD agents manipulating it. Enter Frank Castle, the Punisher. This dude does not care. There is not one F to be given by this man, as we all know. So he starts fighting all four of them, even though he just got beat up by one of them. And this is where things were I thought was really cool, because he starts talking to the armor and the AI inside the suit. And he's like, what are my chances I can just kill all three of these guys? And the suit's like, you have a 3% chance of killing all four of these guys. And he's like, okay. And he starts fighting with one of them. And he's like, what are the chances I can kill this guy? And the computer's like, 22%. And he's like, awesome. Put all the power you have into my next blow. And just punches the guy straight in the face, breaks the visor. All the other guys get pissed and just unload on the Punisher. And the issue ends with the Punisher getting a bunch of missiles and bullets and just God knows everything else blowing up all over him. And him falling into the water. And classic bad guy, all arrogant, like, there's no way he can survive that. We all know better. So this, as I said, I was really afraid when I heard the pitch for it. I was like, this could be the tackiest, silliest thing that I've seen in a while, or it could be exactly what it is. And this is rapidly becoming one of, I feel, the best, just normal, blanket Marvel titles right now, period. So, this comic, highly recommend. Current run of Punisher, top. Alright, next we have Star Wars Darth Vader, number 10. Alright. This one is by Charles Soule and Giuseppe Camuncoli. Yeah, told you this is going to be a fun part of the show, me butchering names. So, the Darth Vader comic has been awesome. It's been very, very good. This current arc, Jocasta Nu, the little old lady librarian, I think she was in the movies, actually. I remember her from a card game back in the day. Irrelevant. Tries to get back into the temple to find some stuff. And stumbles across Darth Vader, because he is there currently doing some research and working with the Inquisitors to try and make them not suck, apparently. And they come across each other's path. And Jocasta Nu gets this, like, rifle and puts a lightsaber in the rifle and starts shooting, like, retardedly high-powered blasts at Darth Vader out of the rifle. So she holds her own against him for a good minute until she burns out the lightsaber. And Vader goes to advance on her. And she pops out an extra lightsaber from within the library, because this was her library. The Empire didn't find everything. And continues to battle Darth Vader. Meanwhile, the last of the clone troopers who did the Order 66, they show up at the temple like, holy smokes, there's a Jedi and something to do. We haven't had to do this for a minute. They storm the temple. Dang, I'm having issues on that one. So they storm the temple, and they start fighting Jocasta Nu. And they see Vader not putting two and two together at the moment, and start shooting at Vader as well. And Vader's like, hey man, it's me. They stand down. They get Jocasta cornered. She's going to die. And she's like, I'm not going to give you the pleasure. And goes to jump off the building. And instead of falling to her death, Vader catches her with the Force and just drags her back up. And is like, no. Bad. And they go, and they leave, and they get on a transport. And she gets mouthy. And is like, the clones are asking questions. And she's like, you don't know who this man is? This is Anakin Skywalker. Because there's a piece of technology that identified him as Anakin. And she's like, oh, I see what happened now. You were so close to the Emperor. You literally... oh, my. And she put it all together in these, like, last minutes on her own. And she calls it out to the clone troopers, like, this is Anakin Skywalker. Like, this is one of the greatest Jedi ever. And Darth Vader's response is to kill all the clone troopers. and he just stares at her. And he's got this one little piece of technology, and she's like, "You don't know what that is? That's a list of all the children born with the Force. Don't you think the Emperor is going to replace you? Like, he wants to mass produce you. He doesn't think you're special." She's like, "So what do you want to do with your life, boy?" And Vader's response is to whip out his lightsaber and kill her. And then crashes the ship. And it gets to the end of the issue, and the Emperor's like, "So what happened?" And Vader's like, "Ah, man, regretfully, she tried to pull some shenanigans, and she died and took out a bunch of the troopers with her on the way." And the Emperor's like, "Oh, that is regrettable. Lucky shucky darn. At least she's dead, right?" Kind of knowing. I think Vader's hosing him. And Vader's like, yeah, that's shucky darn." And the Emperor asks, "Did you get any useful information from her at least?" And Vader, like, crushes the chip that he had all the information on. Is like, "Nah, nothing." So I thought that was pretty cool. And then literally the last page of the comic shows Luke Skywalker out of nowhere for no reason, like an epilogue style, breaking through a wall into like a little mini Jedi library that you've seen like off and on through the comic as like background pieces of just kind of like, this makes no sense, and it's starting to slowly over the issues have a context and lay out like a backstory, which I've always really, really appreciated because older comics did that a lot, and it kind of what made you want to keep reading them, not just stick on for the one arc, but indefinitely read the comic. So I'm appreciating the crap out of that. So again, the Star Wars comics have been absolutely great. Probably some of the stuff keeping Marvel afloat in a lot of cases right now because they've been so great. Alright, we have probably, I think actually the only independent comic I actually buy on a monthly basis and not in like a trade paperback or compendium format or anything like that. Because I buy Saga and I buy Walking Dead, but not monthly. So, this is from Boom Studios. This is issue number 5 of Mech Cadet U, done by Greg Pak and Takashimi Miyazawa? Yeah. So, this one got on my radar because I literally went in to buy my comic books one day, and my guy at my local comic book shop looks at me and goes, "Hey, I don't know if you watch anime or not." And I'm like, "Well, my kids do." And he's like, "Well, this is kind of like Voltron meets Gundam meets Evangelion meets every mech show ever, done in an American comic book format." And it was only supposed to be a miniseries, and I'm like, what the hell, why not? That sounds fine. It's so good and did so well in sales, it's become an ongoing, I believe, because it just keeps coming. So I keep buying it because it's freaking great. The idea is these robots, once every annually so often, land on Earth and bond with a human and fight aliens off. But there hadn't been aliens in like a generation or almost. So it's kind of a formality at this point. And one of the aliens bonds with one of the maintenance kids. And it's kind of like a taboo because he didn't actually go through the student training to become one of these elite pilots and through, the cadet school. He's a maintenance kid. He was a janitor. And he still bonded with the robot. And they're going through. And they have the first story arc. Here's where they kind of decide to just keep it going. And they're facing repercussions from what they did at the end of the first story arc. They disobeyed orders, so they're like, "You're in trouble now because this is the military." And their official punishment is they have to help the janitor team clean up, like literally clean up the battlefields, to see what their actions have consequences on a different level. And the janitorial people out in the field are making fun of them, like, "Oh yeah, you guys think you're so awesome. Look what you actually did." So it's kind of like a context moment. And there are eggs from these aliens spread out periodically that they're also having to like eradicate and clean up. And they go and do their job during the day. At nighttime, they are secretly training with the planet's most legendary warrior ever, who came back from a space hiatus and is like, hey kids, I'm going to show you how to do this for real, because the military is bureaucratic and stupid, and I want the human race to live. So he starts training these children with like Nerf guns in the middle of the night how to be warriors and combatants. And they do their training, and they go back, and everybody's about to go to sleep. And as the everything winds down through, they worked all day, they're working most of the night, they're finally going to bed. And as they're going to their dorm rooms, the very last panel of the comic is a baby. Now, mind you, this is like a freshly born from an egg baby. Alien is looming over one of the pilots, about to kill him. And dun dun dun, cliffhanger, it ends. So, like I said, it is literally like every anime mech show you've ever seen in your life, but in a comic book, with an approach that you literally don't know where it's going to go, because it has elements of everything all together. So another one of those just kind of fun random moments that me and my oldest kid are like, hey, this turned out to be a lot better than it could have been, and let's just keep reading it. So yeah, my one independent book of the month. There you go. Alright, moving on to DC. We have Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, issue number 21. This is written by Keith Griffin and done by J.M. Demtezi? Oh man, I don't know, I'm so sorry. And Ron Wagner. I can say that one. So, Scooby-Doo Apocalypse got onto my radar with the very first issue. We were at the comic book shop just looking around, and my wife saw it and was like, let's get it, because she is a huge Resident Evil zombie horror kind of stuff fan, and Scooby is very sentimental to her on multiple levels, and I'm like, what's the worst it can hurt? And this is also where I first got turned on to how good the Hanna-Barbera stuff actually is, like when they're doing the adult imprints. Rough overview. There was a nanite virus that was created and turned 99% of the planet into monsters. And some of the monsters are like your classic villains from the show, have showed up in like various forms, and other ones have just been like silly nonsense that the writers have written in to make this go on, because I don't think it was supposed to be an ongoing, but it's so incredible that it just keeps going, because it is really, really that incredible. This particular issue, the party's been on the move for like a year now in the Mystery Machine, just doing survival, basic survival. And Velma finally decides, because there is no way to do a cure, they also recently discovered that maybe they should just finally make a spot and stay. They should actually make a home, so to speak. And they come across this mall, and they're like, that might actually work. If we can make sure that the inside's cleared out, we can live there. And you have your classics, Scooby, Shaggy, Velma, Fred, Daphne. They also have a young child with them, like a 10-year-old-ish boy, and another woman their age that they've picked up through storyline. Fred in this is obsessed with Daphne. I mean, just every issue almost, he's proposed. And she's just like, I'm going to punch you in the head. So Fred and Daphne get elected through whatever to go to the sewer system, through the sewer system into the mall to make sure everything's safe. And somebody mentions, what about the homeless people that used to live in the sewers? And Daphne's like, there aren't homeless people that live in the sewers. And Fred's like, actually, on our old TV show we used to do before this happened, we did an episode about the homeless people who lived in the sewers. Yeah, it's one of those kind of comics where it's just silly and fun. So they go into the sewers. Sure enough, all the homeless people that were living in the sewer got turned into monsters. So there's monster people living in the sewers. And they try to sneak past them, and they fail miserably. So they have to run past them, and Daphne has the machine gun, and Daphne's the tank in this comic, and she just mows a ton of them down. And they run straight through, get into the mall, and it ends with the cliffhanger of like, let's see what's on the other side of this door. That's the end of the issue. So, awesome, super fun. Scooby-Doo's also have a backup comic. It's 8 pages, and it is Secret Squirrel. And I find Secret Squirrel way more entertaining than my wife does. And we'll leave that there. So Secret Squirrel has this incredible storyline going where he goes to Moroccan Mole. Yeah. And he's like, I need your help. And as soon as he goes to Moroccan Mole, the 3 women who are there taking care of Moroccan Mole and bikinis happen to be assassins! Alright? Who would have saw that coming? So, Secret Squirrel's partner slash ex-girlfriend slash everything that they need to make the storyline work this fashion kills all 3 of them. Like, just kill over the, fights them all, takes them all out. And Secret Squirrel's being an idiot. Like, he goes to attack one of them and just completely misses and, like, smashes off of a wall. And, like, Moroccan Mole the whole time is just, like, complaining and screaming at them for messing up his apartment in his life. And they kill, they take care of all 3 of these assassin bimbos in bikinis. And, they're like, fine, will you help us now? And Moroccan Mole's like, well, I kind of have to, because I'm part of this no matter what. Let's move on. And that was that. It's only 8 pages, so I mean, it's not like a lot can happen. But they're incredible. They're stupid and retarded, and it's like the worst James Bond thing you've ever seen. And that's part of why it's so great. 'Cause it's Secret Squirrel. Yep. So, moving on. Alright, next we've got Action Comics, number 995, by Dan Jurgens and Brett Booth. Alright, so this has been a Booster Gold crossover, or Booster Gold's been in this with him, and the basic idea here, Superman got the bright idea to go back in time and watch Krypton explode, and it didn't work out, and Booster Gold showed up to be like, hey man, you're screwing with everything in the timeline, we need to get out of here. And sure enough, they have. They've screwed everything up. And Superman winds up on Earth with Booster Gold in the future, where Booster Gold stole, like, right after wibbly wobbly timey wimey, right after Booster in this time stole the suit and the technology in this ship that he uses to go around through time. So they are arrested, or Booster's arrested, Superman gets away, and finds out the backstory of Booster Gold from the little robot dealie that Booster Gold has rolling with him. Bear with me, this is all very new to me. Like I said, I never dealt DC until this. So Superman finds out the backstory of Booster Gold and finds out how Booster Gold's dad was kind of a hoser. He was a real big jerk, kind of an abusive father, manipulated and used Booster a lot. And realizes that, yeah, Booster stole this suit and stole this equipment and stole this time machine, but he wasn't really doing it because he's a bad guy, and the things he's done with it since have been all good guys things, and how he's the greatest hero that history has never heard of. Kind of like the Doctor. And Superman helps him get out of jail and make sure that Booster's dad, who also is there because of the storyline, stays in jail because Superman is like, you're a dirtbag. Like, actually tells the guy, like, words he uses in the comic are, you disgust me. So I thought that was kind of cool how Superman has this whole, like, you're a bad dad moment. And helps Booster see his mom, and they have this cute little moment, and they're like, okay, we need to leave, we need to get out of here. And they go to get in the time machine, and they leave, and you're like, okay, cool, awesome, they're finally going to finish this story arc soon. Nope. Nope, they land somewhere that is not right at all, because there's like a giant monument to Zod. And they're like, bullocks. So this is just going to keep going on for a minute. I'd like to call out, this is issue 995 of Action Comics. Issue 1000 is coming, and I know DC has already announced that they have very big plans and super high expectations for issue 1000. I heard it might be a $10 comic. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm excited either way. So I think they might be kind of drawing this out so that way they can do the timing and the pacing of issue 1000 to their discretion and leisure. And if that's the case, more power to them. Let them have fun because it's been just fine. So that's Action Comics this week. Alright, Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, number 18. This is by Julie and Shauna Benson, and art done by Marcio Takara. Again, main names. So, this issue was kind of like a filler issue. It didn't link in the last story. It ended cleanly this issue. I actually appreciate these. I think they're kind of fun when you just have a one story that stands alone by itself. Just this issue. What happens here is it starts off with Spiral. A spy agency comes to Huntress, who she's worked with them in the past, and is like, hey, can you help us do some like freelance work, essentially? Here's all the information, go. And they go to this tech conference, and there's a demonstration on a lamp that cannot be wiped out by EMP, and it doesn't lose its energy ever, and it's like the perfect flashlight for emergencies. And naturally it gets stolen. And they chase the guy down, and he hooks this thing up to the Weather Wizard's wand. Say that 5 times fast. Seriously. You can pause and say that 5 times fast, because I'm not even going to try. And he hooks it up to this thing and starts messing around with the weather in Paris, which is where they're at, by the way, just because they wanted to be. Like, they started to Gotham, and like, this thing's in Paris, let's go there. So, just because they can, I think it's a fun place to be. And they're on the Eiffel Tower, and this guy's like, I'm going to be insanely powerful! And they beat him. And it's your very just, like, classic comic book story. Like, nothing amazing, nothing incredible. It's just very pleasant. I could see how that turns a lot of people off, because it was like a 3 out of 5. I mean, it was just center line. But this comic's been fine. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. So, not a lot happens, and I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Alright. We have Detective Comics, issue number 972. This is done by James Tynion 4 and Miguel Mendonoko. Yep. Okay. Detective Comics has had the team, is basically what this is. It's been Batman and his team, which is hilarious because Batman's notorious for not doing teams. But he has a team of Bat people. It's like the Bat family, led by Batwoman. And Tim Drake was gone for a while and is back and is now kind of like trying to overcompensate. And so there's a bit of friction in the team. Clayface has also been on this team. Now, Clayface has had a device that he's been able to wear so he can control himself and keep sane and not just be like the rage monster that Clayface is known to be. There's a group of bad guys who have been manipulating things in the background this whole time. The Villain Syndicate. And they are screwing around with Clayface and make him basically go crazy by withholding the tech and everything and the meds and all that are keeping him from being a rage monster, and unleash him on Batman because the public is mad that Batman is working with a known villain. Even though Basil's been reformed and quite the good guy and has done a lot to help the team, public don't care. Public sees bad guy working with good guy. Good guy must be corrupt. So this issue, okay, that was all kind of backstory. Sorry for my rant. This issue, Batman and Clayface start fighting, And I want to call it the art in this has been really cool, really nifty. And Batman and Clayface are fighting, and Batman freezes Clayface. But Clayface manages to use some of the techniques that they taught him to escape, and gets to the headquarters, the Belfry, where everybody's at. Prior to this, Batwoman meets her father, who's been a bad guy and an antagonist in this. He's not been very helpful. She meets up with him in secret from the rest of the team and gets a mysterious weapon that can kill Clayface. And her father explains it out, like, this will kill him. So Batwoman takes this case. And the team meets up, and they're talking about their options, and Robin calls out, like, you're gonna kill him. Like, we had an encounter with somebody from the future who said you do something very soon that's over the line. This is it, isn't it? And it's that fracturing of the team. Meanwhile, Azrael and Lucius Fox, who's going by the name of Batwing in this, like, Batman, Iron Man style armor, are in the sewers looking for Clayface. And they meet him alright, and he swarms from everywhere and attacks them. And he comes into the Belfry at the same time and just mops the floor with the Bat family. I mean, just wipes them out completely. And he encounters one of the members of the team that he's very, very close with. And this girl barely talks. She's just like hardly any words. Her name is Orphan. And they have this minimal word meeting. And he about gains control, kind of comes back down. But in the process, he ruptured what they call the Mud Room. And it's basically like the Batman's version of the X-Men's Danger Room, but made with mud instead of holograms and stuff. Where they can just like program it and run scenarios and do all this stuff. And it's just part of Clayface. He's a little butthurt at first, but whatever. Ruptures the Mud Room. And absorbs like hundreds and hundreds of gallons of mud. And it makes him go ballistic. And the issue ends with Mudzilla. And it's awesome. Mudzilla. So that's what the team gets to deal with next time. Mud Flippin'Zilla. Next, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, issue number 36 by Robert Venditti, and art is by Jack Herbert and Jose Luis. So, right now the current story arc is the Controllers have kidnapped the Guardians and have found a way to basically mutate Guardians into Controllers. Okay, and there's only a handful of each of these left in all existence. There's like 7 or 8 on one side and 5, 6 on the other. I mean, they're very limited in numbers. Hal Jordan, star character, Kyle Rayner, Jon Stewart, and Guy Gardner, 4 Green Lanterns. They're like, we're gonna go take care of this and get our guys back. Not really knowing what they're up against. They're just like, we're cocky, arrogant Green Lanterns. Meh. And they get there, sure enough, it's just them beating the crud out of like an entire mercenary army. I mean, they smash through everything, and they get to the Controllers, and they're fighting them, and they smash them apart, and it's pretty casual. This wasn't one of the like incredible issues that this comic has had. This was kind of more of like, we're gonna do a story arc to reestablish the Guardians, the little blue dudes, back to a more like classic standard and level, closer and more similar to what they used to be literally in the past, because they've been very strange for a while now. So there's now the Guardians reestablishing themselves as a council, and that was pretty much what this entire story arc was for, was to establish what Guardians are left and establish them as a council to help assist the Green Lantern Corps keep peace and safety in the galaxy. So like I said, this wasn't one of the best issues of this comic ever, because it was kind of establishing like story lines and things for later. So this was kind of one of the dip issue or story arcs, but still, this comic has been phenomenal. I didn't jump on this one in the beginning like I did a lot of the DC books, and I read that first trade, like those first 6 issues, and I was so blown away. I was like, add to pull list, and bought the trades to get caught up, and I've been buying the issue ever since, because it is, if you like a space book, this is it. This is your space book right now. So, yeah, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. That's what we've got going on with it this week. Alright, so the second comic that I am really, really excited to show you guys tonight is Mr. Miracle number 6 by Tom King and Mitch Gerads. So, I'm already acknowledging the fact that I know I sound like a damn Tom King fangirl, and that's fine. Because when you read comics like this, you completely 100% understand why. So, Mr. Miracle is scot-free. He is from the land of Apocalypse, where Darkseid is from. Currently in DC Comics, Darkseid is disposed and not on his throne. He's believed by some to be dead. We as the reader know dang well he's not dead. He's just not currently ruling Apocalypse. And Orion is in charge and running it. And scot-free, Mr. Miracle has been brought up on treason charges. Now, mind you, this comic is dark. Like, this comic is dark and jacked up. Issue number 1, the very first thing you see is scot-free attempted to commit suicide. I mean, this is not a light and happy comic at all. This is definitely one of those, like, parental advisory, don't let your dang little kids read this one, because it is flippin' screwy. But it is so incredibly good at the same time, because you have issues like this particular issue, where they were going to take him off to execute him the end of last issue, and his wife, Big Barda, had made the decision for him because he's so depressed and apathetic about life that she is not going to allow him to get killed. She just isn't having it. They're going to go and fight this, essentially, and the way you fight things in Apocalypse is with brute force, not with legislation. This isn't America. This is Apocalypse. So she's like, we're going, and drags him to the homeworld, and they're going to go to the throne. They're going to go see Orion, Dog of War, the ruler of Apocalypse right now, and petition directly to him why Scott should not be killed. But in the meantime, they're fugitives. They're wanted by everybody in Apocalypse. So the issue is every single page of this comic is 9, like Hollywood Squares, 9 frames. And it's just Big Barda and Mr. Miracle getting in. Now, she's super strong and has that little baton, like Smashy Smash, and he has 2 discs that are light, and he can like throw them, and they cut people, and he can block lasers, and like do all these stuff. They're literally going through like a madhouse, and everywhere they go, they're like, this will kill you. And he's the greatest escape artist on any planet. And they're just casually going through it. Like, it's nothing. Like, it doesn't take actually effort from them. But where this gets brilliant is the conversations they're having. Big Barda's like, well, we've got this spot in the kitchen that has nothing but, like, magazines and junk on it. And Mr. Miracle's like, so I like that spot. And she's like, yeah, but if we got rid of that spot, we wouldn't have that stuff. And he was like, yeah, but we have that stuff. Like this. And she's like, but it's just magazines and junk. But they're my magazines. I like my magazines. Yeah, but you don't read your magazines. As they're literally, like, killing guards and, like, evading giant fish as they swim through these, like, canals. And they're, like, doing these death-defying moments with, like, these laser grids. And they're having this just unbelievably mundane talk. I mean, like, it is the most just dry conversation. Is that, she's just telling him, like, we should do this, and he's like, but I don't want to do that. Well, if we put a wall here, we could change this, and yeah, but I don't want to do that. And she's like, we could cut the living room in half. And he's like, why the hell would we cut the living room in half? We use the whole living room. And she's like, but we don't need the whole living room. We only need half the living room. And she's going through this whole thing, and he's like, why, and finally she's like, well, I want to make another bedroom, like a whole second bedroom, and I want to make a second bathroom. And he's like, why do you want to make all this extra stuff in the house? And finally, as they get to the throne room, like they're at the door, she drops a bombshell on him. She's pregnant. And he's just like, oh my flippin' lord. Okay, we'll deal with this in a second. I have to go talk to Orion. I'm going to go talk to my brother. And he opens the throne room, and he goes in, and then the color scheme of the comic changes violently. I mean, it goes from lighter tones to this dark, drab, just creepy look. And Orion is laying in the forefront, bleeding out dead. And Mr. Miracle goes up to him, and he's like, oh, what did you do? Like, has this, like, freak out moment. Big Barda immediately comes into the room, and there's one panel where it's all lit up, beautiful and spectacular. And then it goes back to this color scheme again. Like I said, it's this 9-panel grid, so one of them standing out is really eye-catching and popping. And all of a sudden, she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's like, I didn't even mean to. I didn't want to, but I saw the face of God, and it ends. That's it. Like, so you have this totally just blasé, mundane conversation that's just cracking you up the entire time, as they're literally just killing mofos the entire way. Bombshell, she's pregnant. Bombshell, brother's dead. Bombshell, like, last 3 pages had more just like than the whole issue had before that, but the whole issue before that was just unbelievably enjoyable. And that is why Tom King is becoming one of the top writers of the current moment. So, yeah, I don't know if you can afford it, but if you can, I cannot tell you enough how awesome Mr. Miracle is and how much you should be reading this comic, because it's just so good. So good. Alright, getting close to the end here. We got this one more. Red Hood and the Outlaws, number 18, by Scott Lobdell and Sergio Sandoval. So this isn't the best comic book from DC right now, but this is probably my personal favorite as far as the normal encompassing, superhero run conventional stuff they do. This comic has been awesome. This is Jason Todd, one of the Robins, the one that died but came back, with Artemis and Bizarro Superman. Artemis is like Amazon, so it's another of the Trinities. They're not bad guys. They're actually good guys pretending to be bad guys. So they skirt that line and can go places the conventional heroes can't, and it's a darker, kind of grittier team. This comic has been so fun. It has been great. The issue starts, they're fighting this hive queen, and it's pointless, it's irrelevant. It was just there to kind of like fill up a couple pages, show off some of the technology the team has currently, and for Bizarro Superman to punch something the heck out. Bizarro Superman was cured by Lex Luthor a handful of issues ago, and is like super intelligent now. Like super intelligent, and he's a Superman, so he can move fast, he's super strong, and he built a base that floats invisibly over the city, and he built an invisible motorcycle, and he built all this crazy technology, and I mean, these guys are hooked up as good, if not better, than the Justice League at the moment. I mean, it is retarded how much stuff Bizarro Superman has made for them in his genius. Now, where this comic gets interesting is he knows he's going to go back to being dumb again. Like, he knows it's coming. He has moments where he himself is not clear and just doesn't want anybody to know. And he's so appreciative and so happy that Artemis and Red Hood took him in his family, that's why he's built this base and is doing all this stuff and building all this tech and making their life as easy as possible, as quickly as he can, because he knows he's going to be dumb again soon, and he's not going to be able to help them in that manner, and they're going to have to essentially take care of him again. So he has an imaginary little like stuffed animal Superman called Pup Pup, who's been talking to him because he's going kind of crazy too. And it's like, you need to tell them that you're getting dumb again. And he's like, no, I can't tell him. I don't want him to worry about me. And they're kind of starting to get suspicious. And then a DC character that I've only encountered a handful of times, I don't really know this guy, the Creeper, seems very interesting, shows up at their base and is like, I'm here for my audition. And they're like, what the heck are you talking about? And they almost are like fighting the guy. And Bizarro shows up and is like, my bad, I'm sorry. Misunderstanding. Mr. Creeper, you can leave. I was trying to help. And they're like, help what, man? Like, we don't need another person. Like, what is going on? And he's like, nothing. I'm not feeling good. I'm tired. I screwed up. I'm going to go lay down. And they're really confused at this point, because like I said, they're starting to get suspicious that something is going on. You know, they didn't trust Lex Luthor to begin with, and everything with him has moved so fast. You know, a couple of weeks he's built and done all this stuff that they want it to be genuine, but they don't trust it. And then he starts pulling stuff like this. Well, the comic ends with him going into like what looks like a man-made Lazarus pit in the ship, and it's got this like synthetic substance, and that little imaginary Superman named Pup Pup is there again, and he's begging and he's pleading and he's just like so sad. He's like, don't do it, buddy, you're getting worse, you don't know what this synthetic stuff's gonna do, like, you can't do this. And Bizarro goes in, and you see him come out of the liquid and his eyes are black, and you're like, oh no. Sure enough, issue ends, like the last panel shows him laying in bed and go, I am okay. And just the grammar structure of it, you're like, oh no. Dumb Bizarro's back. But you saw that black in his eyes, so you're gonna have to see what happens, because Bizarro's been what's making this comic actually, like, it's been good, it's been really solid. The way they're handling Bizarro has made this comic, is why it's my favorite. It makes it very cute and adorable while still being very serious in tone and having good writing and adventures and story and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, poor Bizarro to be super smart and know you're going to be dumb again and then wake up dumb. When he's dumb, is he going to remember that he was smart? And is that going to play into this too with his emotions and everything? Like, oh my lord, I don't know what to do. Yeah, so this one only comes out once a month, as opposed to many of the DC titles I covered here come out twice a month. I don't know if I've explained that. I'm sure I haven't. I wish this one came out more often, because, God, this comic is so flippin' good. Yeah. Red Hood and the Outlaws. Alright, last comic of the episode, we got Wonder Woman number 38, done by James Robinson and Emmanuel Lupacchino. Wonder Woman. Sorry. The writers have been kind of all over the place with this book. They've been trying to get its footing. They had a really solid run of 25 issues with one guy, and then it's been kind of in and out with other people since then. This is part one of a new story arc, and this one was really cool. I loved the approach they took with this. So it starts like any other Wonder Woman comic could ever start, where she is fighting a bad guy, and a girl gets hurt, and she beats the bad guy and helps the girl, and then this girl's in the hospital because she got injured quite severely. And Wonder Woman shows up at the hospital and gets to know her on a personal level and is there being friendly with her. And this girl is like, this is my name, and I'm Wonder Woman's best friend. And you're like, oh. And then it progresses to where this girl's at home. And Wonder Woman doesn't come by nearly as often. And then this girl's mom gets sick because time is progressing. And this girl's mom dies. And this girl gets really sad that she had all this turmoil and trauma happen to her. And Wonder Woman was there. And now Wonder Woman's not there when she really, really actually needs her. And now she's all alone. And then the story progresses to Wonder Woman herself. And Wonder Woman had a brother and whatever, it's this whole other, that's what happened prior. But Wonder Woman has a brother. We're just going to go with it. It wasn't a bad story. It's just causing a lot of people to cry. We're moving forward. Wonder Woman has a brother, and he's trying to learn what the world basically is, because he only grew up in this one little village and doesn't really know crud. So he's living with Wonder Woman, and he decides to throw a party, and she comes home and gets all mad at him and chastises him for having a party in the house. And while she's chastising him, they're going back and forth, and she realizes that that there's this family that she needs to go check on, because in the issue prior, she'd saved them as well, and that was when this girl had realized that Wonder Woman wasn't there for her now. She was on TV saving this other family, not there with her for her mom. When her mom died, she's saving this other family, not helping her. And Wonder Woman's like, I need to go actually check on this other family really quick. Like, I just remembered something. So the family that she was on TV, having just saved, she gets there, and they're dead. Like, they're murdered dead. And that girl from the beginning of the comic is there in this like crazy outfit with like metal wings and stuff, and she's like, my name's whatever, I can't remember her name, and I'm Wonder Woman's worst enemy. And like, parts of this issue were kind of hokey, but the overall story I thought in this was actually really cool. Of like, because you see this a lot in comic books, you see it in DC, you see it in Marvel, where there's an innocent person who gets hurt, and then the superhero spends time with that person, and they become emotionally invested. But they're just a mundane. They can't stay emotionally invested with every mundane, because eventually all they'd be doing is keeping up these emotional investments, and they wouldn't be able to actually go superhero. So these people slowly fall off the radar over time. And we see this happen in the real world from time to time, where, say a doctor saves somebody in a procedure, and that doctor and that patient stay close for a while, but then the doctor's not there forever. Superhero version, well, what happens to those people, right? Especially over long periods of time, such as the DC universe, which is tens of 20 of hundreds of whatever years. Those people, where do they come from? So I thought this was a really interesting way to bring in a new villain. Was this girl who had met Wonder Woman, had a relationship with her, maybe more on, she thought it was more than it really was. Because obviously this is Wonder Woman, she can't put that much time and effort into every single person, then she would never be able to do anything to save humanity and be a superhero, right? And this girl fall off Wonder Woman's radar and then get upset and jealous and angry because Wonder Woman's still being Wonder Woman. But she's not there for there now. She's there for this other family. And that's what made her snap. And she becomes a supervillain. Kills that family. So I thought that was a really interesting way of introducing a new villain like that. This issue screwed with my head. Like, I went to go lay down to bed after reading this not too long, and I sat there and laid in bed and was like, that was screwed up. So, yeah. That was Wonder Woman this week. Kind of spooky. Alright, Mr. Bond. No. Alright, so thank you for guys. Another episode down. Thank you for sticking around and watching it and putting up with me rambling at you for another, I think it's probably going to be close to an hour again. I did do something different this episode than last episode, and I didn't do it as successfully as I had intended. I'm going to see if you guys can catch it. It had nothing to do with comics. It was just kind of a fun, frivolous thing that I'm going to start doing in the background. Hopefully I can remember to stick on it better, but we'll see if you guys can figure out what I started doing in the background to make this a little more entertaining. Other than that, thank you again for another week. I will see you guys in a couple more days with the pull list, and a couple more days after that with another episode, and then we're just gonna keep going from here. We've got a tempo, and we're gonna keep it going. Thank you much, and I will see you guys later. Bye.